Hey mama, are you feeling overwhelmed? Like no matter how hard you try, you're still not the mom you know you were meant to be? I get it, and I'm here to tell you you were designed for more, and together we can get you there. Welcome to the Nature to Nurture podcast. I'm Tiffany, an early childhood specialist, advocate, and mom on this journey with you. I've spent years supporting families and working with children in those critical first 5 years of life, where every moment counts. But here's the thing. The same caregiving practices that help 0 to 5-year-olds thrive are the very same practices that help us, as adults, live purposeful, connected, and thriving lives. It all begins with intention, mindfulness, and showing up for ourselves and our kids. In this podcast, I'll help you discover simple tips and practices for raising your little ones with intention and care, while also guiding you to become the caregiver that you've always wanted to be, the one that you dream of. Each week, I'll share stories from my own life, some practical strategies, and research-backed insights to help you slow down, reconnect, and find joy in the everyday moments. Whether it's creating a bit of time for unstructured play, setting up your nurturing routines, or taking care of yourself as you care for your kids. This is the place for you. If you're ready to embrace the kind of motherhood that feels aligned with who you truly are, be sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and join our supportive community. We are here to lift each other up every step of the way. All right, Mama, let's dive into today's episode. What if I told you the most life-changing gift that you can give yourself and your family isn't something that you can buy, wrap, or stick a bow on? It's the gift of boundaries. This is a gift that creates safety, it restores your energy, and it protects what ultimately matters most. But here's the thing. Boundaries are not easy. They are messy, uncomfortable, and let's be honest, downright hard to stick to. So why bother? Because boundaries are the key to flourishing for you and your family. That's why. And today, I'm diving into how you can master this gift, even when it feels impossible. Now, before we jump in, I want to hear from you. Have you been struggling with boundaries? Are you celebrating a boundary win? Please come share your story or your question with me at speakpipe.com/nature to nurture. And your voice might even be featured on this podcast. Don't forget to join our conversation over in the Nature to Nurture Facebook group, a community of like-minded parents and caregivers that are sharing ideas, wins, and support as we navigate this journey together. All right, let's get real. Creating boundaries and following boundaries is hard. I used to be the queen of saying yes to everything. Sometimes I still am. Every social event, every work opportunity, every extracurricular commitment. And you know what happened? I burned out. I was exhausted, irritable, and not showing up as the mom, the partner, or the person that I ultimately wanted to be. But for me, boundaries felt selfish. Ultimately, though, I have learned that they're actually the most loving thing that we can do for ourselves, for our families, and even our communities. It was not easy when I really started looking at my boundaries that I did not have and creating boundaries that were necessary. But here's what I've discovered. Boundaries are not walls. They're safety nets. They create spaces where we can breathe, feel secure, and thrive. And when we, as parents, are modeling healthy boundaries, we're teaching our kids that it's okay to protect their peace too. Honestly, when I look back to my teenage years, my early adult years, and even just 5 years ago, I couldn't tell you what my boundaries were because I probably really didn't have any. I thought boundaries were something that would keep us away from other people, and I was deeply craving connection. But as I really stepped into the early childhood realm and started working with kids, I discovered how important boundaries are. Boundaries create the safety and the security that our children need. They help kids to develop calmness, resilience, and trust. And I know it's hard to understand if you are looking at boundaries like rules, walls that are keeping you locked in. But if you can shift that perspective and see that boundaries are actually the things that tell us what we can do, that give us the space to explore, to be who we are, who we want to be, without having to worry, then you can see that boundaries really are the safety net and not a huge, giant wall keeping you locked in. Now, during this series, we have been talking about a couple of gifts: the gift of self-acceptance, the gift of grace, and today, the gift of boundaries. Self-acceptance taught us to really embrace our true selves, to acknowledge our strengths and our imperfections with compassion, to give ourselves love, to be true, to be honest, right? Then grace shows us the power of forgiveness. It releases the weight of mistakes in men's relationships. And today we're going to be talking about boundaries and how they act as the guardians for those first two gifts, creating the space that we need to thrive. Now, research has showed us over and over again that setting healthy boundaries reduces stress, improves your emotional well-being, and it creates a deeper, more secure connection to yourself and to others. I can't wait to talk about secure connection in another episode because that is a major one. But let's jump in to talk about how together these gifts empower us and they help us to grow into our best selves while giving us a life that is full of balance and ultimately fulfillment. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit back into my early childhood teaching, and I want to talk about one of the favorite spaces that little kids love. And it's not just in early childhood, because I am now teaching kindergarten through sixth graders, and they all love and want this too. That's their cozy space, their cozy corner. It is a small, safe, secure area. It could be made into a little fort, a little tent, but it almost is like it has these walls, these boundaries that help you to feel safe and secure. You know, nothing is coming from behind you, from the side of you. You are safe. And children love this so much because it helps them feel secure. Now, it's not only my observation that tells me that boundaries really help us to feel that way, it's science. Studies have shown us that having those clear boundaries lowers our stress. It improves our emotional regulation, and it even boosts productivity. And for children, boundaries again are the foundation of secure attachment. They provide that predictability, which really helps to create calmness and trust. And spoiler alert, for adults, they do the same thing. When we establish and honor boundaries, we are creating an environment where everyone in the family feels secure. And honestly, it's from that place of security that we can all flourish. Now, I know what it's like to not have boundaries. There was a time when I said yes to everyone, to my friends, my family, my coworkers. I thought I was being helpful. I thought I was serving. But I was really just exhausting myself. It took a whole lot of work, a change in jobs, and still continuous work to learn to say, this isn't mine to carry. And honestly, it still feels hard sometimes. I have a huge boundary that I'm working on right now. It is a boundary that will completely change some of my core relationships. And it is a boundary that I know I need to put in place. And I am climbing and trying more and more to solidify this boundary. And honestly, it might be one of those big, huge rock walls, and I'm putting the rocks up bit by bit. This one might not be a safety net, but it's something that I know I need to help me and my family to flourish. Now, sometimes we really do need to have that physical boundary. because we could be overcommitting to social and work obligations. I used to think that I had to say yes to everything that came up, to all of the extracurriculars at my kids' school, to late night emails that popped up, to all of the problems or ideas, opportunities that were coming up at my business. But I really realized that as I was saying yes to everything, it actually meant that I was saying no to what mattered most: my family, their energy, and their peace. I was the yes person. I'm going to do everything for the preschool program that I ran, which I understand as a director, as a manager, as a business owner, it's yours to take care of. But that doesn't mean that you should be putting that above your family, right? And that's what I was doing. It hit me one Christmas when I had to miss out on my kids' Christmas performance because serendipity. Ooh. No, this was definitely meant to happen. But the Christmas performance for my preschool program was rescheduled. And then my kids' Christmas performance was rescheduled for the exact same time. And I couldn't be in two places at once. And what do you think I chose? It wasn't my family. I'll let you know that. No, I chose my work. And after that event, it haunted me because it's true. My husband was telling me, my kids were telling me, your work always comes first. And that was a clear example that, yeah, it did come first. Ouch. Time to put up a physical boundary. That's actually when I had to put in my notice and leave the school that I loved so that I could love my family the way that they need. A new boundary that I've been working on is really distancing myself from electronics. I have created a boundary so that when I'm at home, my telephone needs to be on the charger, not in my hands. I have one of those smart watches, so I can see what's going on if there is a phone call or if there's a message, and I can get to it, not a big deal. But I don't need to be walking around with my phone in my hand. And this is important because my kids have told me, whenever they look at me, I'm on my phone. My husband told me, you're always on your phone. And so I literally had to create this boundary to help keep me safe so that I could pour out into others instead of just getting my energy zapped from an electronic device. It has been so beautiful to hear my kiddos say, Mom, you are so happy when you're not on your phone. I love being here with you. Hearing them say that reminds me very clearly that I'm modeling boundaries. I'm teaching my kids what it looks like to prioritize their own peace and their well-being. Another super important boundary and gift is actually just being able to say no to overcommitting. Being able to do this has given me the opportunity to actually be present with my kids, with my husband, with myself. And it was not easy, but it was worth it. I jumped into a coaching container with Chelsea Joe last year. And if you don't know, go check out Chelsea Joe and her podcast, Systemize Your Life. It really has been life-changing for me. I've also done her business program, which has been life-changing. But I stepped into it because I have a hard time creating boundaries and creating discipline. Like, it's something that I struggle with. And I jumped into this, and one of the first activities she has you do is creating time blocks and weekly schedules. And I was like, I don't need that. I work remote. All of my jobs are all different times and not a big deal. I can just do whatever. And I battled it for about 6 months. I did not want to do it. But when I set up those boundaries on my time, where I have a work period, I have a home period, I have a me time period, I have a date night period, Like when I set that up and actually started following those boundaries, I gained so much joy, so much peace, and such a better connection with my family, with myself. Honestly, I was able to give myself space to breathe. And now I have one whole day every other week that is all mine. That has never happened. It used to be that I only had 15 to 30 minutes as I was going to pick up the kids from one activity to the other. Now, I want to go a step further into these time-marked boundaries and talk about how secure attachment is so connected to these boundaries. At its core, secure attachment is built on trust, consistency, and a sense of safety, right? Children feel safe when they know what to expect, when their world feels predictable, when their caregivers are predictable and present. And boundaries are what create that predictability. When we as parents or caregivers say, this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do, we're not only protecting our own energy and our well-being, but we're teaching our children an incredibly valuable lesson. We're teaching them that it is okay to set limits, that it is healthy to say no, and that love can ultimately thrive when you have those limits in place. Now I'm going to break it down even further. You see, boundaries are not just about those rules or restrictions. They're about building trust. When you're setting a boundary and you're consistently following through on it, you're showing your children that they can count on you. They know you mean what you say, and that reliability is really what helps them feel secure. So here is a deeper example of how I really was fighting against those time boundaries and letting work slip into every little bit of what I was doing. You see, I work in community, so I need to get a hold of people, right? And people are not always available just during your limited work hours. And so as I was making dinner, I would be answering the message, sending emails, going to meetings. When we were down in our bedroom having some downtime, I'd pop open the computer and finish up the projects that I needed to finish. And I would continuously spiral myself down into this hole where I would do it. I would look at my kids. I would look at my husband. I would see the disappointment on their face. The true fact that they felt that they did not have my full attention. And I would put myself down and I would dive back into my work because that is something that I can do, that I can show up in. After battling tooth and nail and actually having a great conversation, I decided I needed to do it. I needed to put in those time boundaries so that we could really focus on, me, so I could really focus on what I needed to focus on. You know, I still do have an hour of work that I do in the morning. But then at 7:30, that stops and I am full mom mode from 7:30 to 9 a.m. There is no work that is trickling into that period. I added in other boundaries as well, where I very clearly wrote down how many hours, what times, what days I would actually be working, and I started following that. I shared that with my kids in our beautiful communication board. If you haven't heard about that or seen that, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to share that with you. But when I did that, I noticed something so profound. My kids and my husband started to relax when they were with me. They were peaceful and happy in the morning. They were excited for us to do something together at night. And that was because they knew they were going to have my full attention. They weren't fighting for it anymore. They didn't feel uncertain or unsure about whether or not I would actually be present. And that consistency ultimately built their trust in me. And it also brought us the ability to have so much more peace together. The beauty of boundaries is that they teach kids to trust not just us, but in themselves as well. When they see that we're holding firm to a boundary, they start to learn how to set their own. This is how they learn that boundaries are not a negative thing. They're actually an act of self-care and respect for everyone that is involved. Now, when you are a kid, or more so a teenager, maybe a kid too, you hate the boundaries that are set on you from your parents, right? Such as my daughter, when she wasn't able to have a sleepover with her friend because it's a school night, she was so upset. But don't worry, have no fear. Creating those boundaries is so important, and it's actually backed up by science. Studies show us over and over, children who are growing up with those consistent boundaries are more likely to develop secure attachments and emotional resilience. And if you don't know about secure attachments, there is a ton of information out there. I encourage you to go and investigate the different types of attachments that you can have as an adult that were developed when you were a child and how they actually affect you. Many of them, if you do not have that secure attachment, can actually bring in a ton of anxiety and depression. And so we know, again, secure attachment is so important. It helps our kiddos to feel safer, calmer, and more able to explore the world because they know that they have a strong, safe, secure foundation to come back to. You see, boundaries give children the gift of predictability, and predictability helps them feel safe. They don't go into that lizard brain because they already know how far they can go. Safe children are free to learn. They're free to explore and grow because they are not wasting their energy worrying about whether or not their needs will be met. I'm going to pull in another little bit of early childhood studies here for you, and that is all around playground accidents. When we are consistently telling children what they cannot do, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, it can actually create more accidents. However, when we teach them the boundaries and why they keep them safe, there are less accidents. For instance, in my preschool program, we had a rock wall that was about 2 feet tall, and the children were welcome to climb up the rock wall, to walk along the top of the rock wall, and to jump off of the rock wall if they were able to land on their feet. If they were not able to land on their feet and they were landing on their feet and their hands, we taught them to go to a lower level to keep them safe, to keep them secure. Say, let's try it at this one first. Remember, we want to land safely. And so coming in with a mind of boundaries are good for us to keep us happy, healthy, and safe is so much better and more successful than coming in with boundaries are a hard line no that you can't do. Help your kiddos to understand, why do you have those boundaries? And this can apply to you as an adult as well. The next time that you are struggling to set or to hold a boundary, I want you to remind yourself that you are not just telling yourself no. You are protecting your own energy. You are doing what's going to help you be happy, healthy, and safe. That is why the boundary is there. Not to put you down, but to actually build you up. You are giving your children and yourself that gift of security and trust. And that ultimately is one of the greatest gifts that we can offer to anyone, including ourselves. All right, so now I want to go ahead and I want to give you all some practical steps on how to create these boundaries. How can we actually put this into place if you are not a boundary person? So first, we're going to be talking about emotional boundaries. I have 3 quick steps for you. The first step is to pause before saying yes. Before you are saying yes to anyone's request, ask yourself, do you actually have the capacity for this right now? And if the answer is no, it's okay to lovingly decline. honestly, before I say yes to anything, I say, ooh, let me check and see if I can fit that in my calendar. And my calendar is booked out. I already have 3 months scheduled in. So if I don't have space, it's an automatic no. I don't have the space to do that, right? Okay, the second step in creating those emotional boundaries is to let go of what's not yours. I am a fixer, a doer, a caregiver, a nurturer. It's something that's built deep inside of me. But I know, and I tell myself, so that I practice this, that not everything is mine to hold. I have to practice saying, I see you, and I trust that you can handle this. I'm here to support you in doing it, but I literally cannot take this on. And for me, I actually am having to put up some physical boundaries to really work on this part of letting go of what's not yours. Now, step number 3 is to be teaching your kids these emotional boundaries as well. We live in a very interesting time where we, as a collective, are getting more comfortable with emotions and understanding that emotions really are our warning signs. And it's important to work with your kiddos to make sure that they can name their feelings, that they can feel their feelings, and that they know it is okay to say no when something doesn't feel good. This could be something little like my daughter and my son when they're playing on their video game with their friends, and one of them is being cranky, rude, ugly to the other one. The other one can say, ooh, I don't like this. This is a no. I'm going to remove myself from this situation because it does not feel good, right? That is an easy one. But it could also be where they're having a sleepover with their friends and something is going on that does not feel appropriate, that makes them feel icky, and they can say, no, this is not okay. I need to go talk to an adult. So please teach your kiddos how to name their feelings, how to sit with their feelings, and that it's okay to feel them, and that their feelings are a sign that they need to put up a boundary, that they need to take a step to get back to safety. Okay, so now let's talk about physical boundaries and how you can actually put this into place. Again, I am highly, highly going to recommend that you set some time blocks for yourself. If you go and check out that Systemize Your Life schedule, or really probably anyone who talks about time blocking, there are normally about 5 different time blocks. There's a morning time block, there's a work time block, there's a dinner time block, and then if you go into the details, there is a nighttime routine and a morning routine, right? And so I highly suggest that you look at your calendar, even if it's just for work, and create really clear start and end times for your work day. Even if you are self-employed, you work remote, your schedule is all over the place, whatever, put it in the calendar, create those time blocks, and set that commitment at the beginning of the week that you're working during that time only and not outside of that time. Protect your family time like it is sacred, because honestly, it really is the most sacred time. Step number 2, I want you to simplify your commitments. So look at everything that you've been doing and choose 1 or 2 activities that really, really align with what you want for your family, what you want for your kids, what you want for yourself. Let me repeat that. Choose 1 or 2 activities. That's it. Let the rest of it go. I know that we live in a culture where we need more, but we don't. Less is more. Let's go deeper instead of going wider. Now, the last physical boundary that I'm going to encourage you to set up is a tech-free time. We know that technology runs rampant for all of us. I know that you are using technology right now to listen to this podcast. So make sure that you have times set up where you are not using that technology, where that distraction is not coming in. It could be dinner time. It could be an hour before bedtime. It could be you don't look at your phone until lunchtime. I don't know. But do something to unplug and to make sure that you truly are connecting face to face. No matter what area you are going to be setting boundaries in, I want you to start. It's going to feel hard, but start small, and here are 3 quick things to remember. Choose one area to focus on. It could be, like I said, your work, your electronics, your social commitments, and set a very clear boundary. Maybe you even need to write it out. 2, communicate it with love. Remember that boundaries are not negative. They're not about rejection. They are actually about protection and thriving. Number 3, hold yourself accountable. Let your partner know. If you slip up, give yourself that grace. Remember we talked about that grace? Go back to the episode before this. Give yourself that grace and try it again. And remember, boundaries aren't about perfection. They are about progress. And every small step you take is seriously a gift that you are giving to yourself and your family. Now, as we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with these 3 questions to reflect on. What's one boundary that you've been afraid to set? How can you model healthy boundaries for your kids this week? And the last one, what's one step that you can take today to protect your energy and to protect your peace? I would love to hear what you have to say, what you have to share. So please head on over to speakpipe.com/nature to nurture and leave me a voice message. It's quick, it's easy, and I honestly love connecting with you all. Don't forget to join me on the Nature to Nurture Facebook group. It is a place where we share wins, ideas, and support each other as we grow. You see, boundaries aren't just a gift. They're a superpower. So let's use them to create that calm, secure, and flourishing family life that I know we all want and we all deserve. I'll see you tomorrow for the next episode in this gifting series.